Fleet Admiral Park Junho stood on the bridge of the human flagship as it dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Council territory. 8 years had passed since humanity's exile. Now they returned not as supplicants, but as the galaxy's last hope. The communication channels were flooded with desperate messages from across known space. The Void Swarm had consumed half the galaxy in just 6 months. Every conventional defense had failed. Every logical strategy had been turned against itself. The Council's perfect order was crumbling under the assault of something that fed on. Predictability. "Admiral," reported Captain Kim Young-soo, "we're receiving a priority transmission from President Kang Hyun-jin." The hologram of humanity's leader appeared in the center of the bridge. President Kang had been Ambassador Kang Min-ho's younger sister, and she carried the same quiet dignity that had made her brother famous. But where Min-ho had offered diplomacy, Hyun-jin brought something more valuable: truth. "Admiral Park," she said, "the Council has officially requested our return. Full restoration of membership, equal voting rights, and command authority over all military operations." "Terms?" Park asked. "No terms, no conditions. Complete autonomy in how we handle the crisis." Hyun-jin's expression was sad. "They're that desperate," Park nodded. He had expected as much. When facing extinction, even the proudest could swallow their pride. "What about the underground networks?" Scientist Lim Ga-young has been coordinating with resistance groups across the galaxy. They've been distributing our adaptive technologies and evacuation protocols for weeks. The formal channels would have taken months we don't have. On the tactical display, Park could see the human fleet spreading out to take positions around critical systems. These were not the same humans who had left 8 years ago. Exile had changed them, taught them hard lessons about survival and sacrifice. They had learned to value their own uniqueness instead of apologizing for it. "Admiral," called out Navigator Seo Jinwan, "we're receiving a transmission from Nexus Station. It's the original Ambassador Kang Min-ho." Park had wondered. What happened to the man who had spoken humanity's final words to the Council? Now he would find out. Min-ho's image appeared, older and more weathered than Park remembered. He stood in what looked like a refugee center, surrounded by aliens from dozens of species. "Admiral Park," Min-ho said, "I'm coordinating civilian evacuations. From the core systems, the Council's evacuation procedures have completely broken down. Too many forms to fill out, too many approval processes. People are dying while bureaucrats debate proper channels." "What do you need?" Park asked. "Authority to bypass all official protocols. Permission to save whoever we can reach, however we can reach them." Park smiled. "Granted. You have full autonomy to act as you see fit, even if it means breaking every regulation in the Council Charter. Especially then." Dr. Lim Ga-young's voice came over the communication system from her research vessel. "Admiral, I've been studying the swarm's behavior patterns. I think I understand what we're really facing." Report. "The swarm isn't just consuming matter and energy. It's consuming diversity itself. Every time it encounters something new, it analyzes it, categorizes it, and either incorporates it into its pattern or destroys it as inefficient." Park felt cold. "It's doing exactly what the Council has been doing for centuries." Exactly. The Council created a galaxy-wide culture that values conformity over creativity, efficiency over empathy, order over innovation. The swarm is just the extreme version of that same philosophy. Another voice joined the conversation. Whisper of Distant Stars, the Void Runner refugee who had become humanity's unlikely ally. "Your scientist speaks truth," Whisper said. The hunger was born from a civilization much like your council. They sought to perfect existence by eliminating all chaos, all uncertainty, all deviation from optimal patterns. But humans are chaos, Park said, understanding. Humans are the opposite of everything the hunger was designed to consume, Whisper confirmed. You make decisions based on feelings that cannot be calculated. You sacrifice efficiency for ideals that have no logical value. You create beauty for no purpose other than joy. Dr. Lim continued her analysis. I've been tracking the swarm's reactions to our presence. Every time human ships engage them, their adaptation algorithms falter. We don't fight the way they expect anyone to fight. How so? We retreat when we should advance. We sacrifice valuable resources to save worthless civilians. We choose personal honor over strategic advantage. We make tactical decisions based on what feels right instead of what the computers recommend. Park nodded. It was true. Human military doctrine had always emphasized flexibility, creativity, and the willingness to break rules when necessary. What the Council had seen as chaotic unprofessionalism was actually humanity's greatest strength. Admiral, reported Communications Officer Ontague, we're getting reports from all fronts. Human-led fleets are not just holding their ground. Against the swarm, they're actually pushing it back. How is that possible? The swarm keeps trying to adapt to our tactics, but we change them faster than it can learn. Every engagement is completely different from the last one. We're not following any pattern it can predict. President Kang Hyun-jin appeared on screen again, this time from the council chambers on Nexus Station. Admiral, you need to see this. The image shifted to show the Great Hall where humanity had been expelled 8 years ago. But now it was full of young aliens from every species in the galaxy. They wore no uniforms, followed no protocols, and carried banners with words in a dozen, languages that all meant the same thing: hope. The resistance movements have united, Hyun-jin explained. They call themselves the Children of Chaos. They're demanding representation in the new galactic government that will emerge after this crisis. Park watched the young aliens singing songs that sounded suspiciously like human folk ballads and telling stories that emphasized courage over caution, love over logic. They had learned more from humanity's brief presence than their elders had learned in centuries of stability. There's something else, Hyun-jin continued. Minho has a theory about why humans affect other species the way we do. The image shifted back to the refugee center where Ambassador Minho was helping families board evacuation ships. He looked up as if he could see Park watching. Admiral, Minho said, I think I know what we really are. Why our presence changes. Everything around us. I'm listening. We're not just another species. We're a catalyst. Our very existence accelerates evolution, innovation, and growth in other beings. Not physically, but culturally and emotionally. Dr. Lim's voice joined in from her research ship. The data supports this theory. Every species that had prolonged contact with humans showed increased creativity, higher birth rates, more rapid cultural development, and greater willingness to take risks. And without us? Park asked. Stagnation. The galaxy has been slowly dying for 8 years, not from disease or war, but from an overdose of order and predictability. Park understood now why the exile had been such a disaster. Removing humans from the galaxy was like removing a vital nutrient from the soil. Everything could still grow, but it grew weaker, smaller, less vibrant. Sir, Captain Kim called out urgently, the swarm is massing for a final assault on the galactic core. All remaining council fleets are falling back to make a last stand at Nexus Station. Park looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They had come home to a galaxy that had rejected them, to save people who had cast them out. They could have stayed in exile and let the Council face the consequences of their own choices. Instead, they had chosen to be human. "All ships," Park announced on the fleet-wide channel. "This is Admiral Park. We're going to do something the Swarm will never expect. We're going to save everyone, even the ones who didn't want to be saved." "Orders, sir?" asked Captain Kim Park. Smiled. "Improvise. Be creative. Break every rule in the book. Make decisions that don't make sense to anyone except yourselves. And if we lose, then we'll lose as humans. But I don't think we will." The Swarm was designed to defeat logical, predictable enemies. We're about to teach it what happens when you try to consume chaos itself. The human fleet accelerated toward the galactic core, toward the final battle that would determine whether diversity or uniformity ruled the stars. Behind them came the children of chaos, young aliens who had learned to dream of impossible things. Ahead waited the Void Swarm, perfect in its efficiency, flawless in its logic, and completely unprepared for the beautiful madness of beings who chose hope over calculation. The galaxy was about to remember that sometimes the most important things could not be measured or optimized. Sometimes the greatest strength came not from perfection, but from the courage to be gloriously, chaotically, magnificently imperfect. Sometimes the best way to save everything was to embrace the wonderful chaos of being human. Ambassador Hyun Woo walked through the long halls of the Galactic Council building. His black shoes made soft sounds on the smooth floor. He carried a simple data pad in his hand. Today was just another day for him to give another report to the Council. The other alien species would listen, nod, and forget about it in 5 minutes. The council chamber was huge. Hundreds of seats filled the round room. Each seat held a different alien species. Some looked like tall blue trees with moving branches. Others were made of living crystal that sparkled when they moved. A few looked like giant bugs with too many eyes. They all thought they were very important. Hyun Woo took his place at the small human section. Only 12 seats for all of humanity. The other species had much bigger sections. The Zephyrians had over 200 seats. They were tall, gray aliens. Who thought they were the smartest in the galaxy? The Vorthak crystals had 100 seats that glowed different colors when they talked. "The humans will now give their report," said the council speaker. It was a floating blob of green gas that spoke through a machine. Hyun Woo stood up. He cleared his throat. "Honorable council members, humanity reports successful crop harvests on all Kepler system colonies. Corn production is up 12%. Wheat production is stable. Rice production has increased 8% thanks to new growing methods." A few aliens looked at their own data pads. Most did not even look up. The Zephyrian delegate made a sound like a tired sigh. One crystal alien flashed a bored yellow color. "Very good," said the speaker blob. "Humans continue to be adequate farmers and record keepers. Next report." Hyun Woo sat down. He had given hundreds of these reports over the years. The council always called humans adequate or useful for basic tasks. They never said humans were smart or creative. They just wanted the food and supplies that human colonies made. What the council did not know was that this would be the last report they would ever hear from humanity. While Hyun Woo spoke to the bored aliens, Captain Soo Jin stood on the observation deck of Luna Base. She watched the last human transport ships leave Earth's moon. The ships were huge. built to carry thousands of people and all their belongings. They moved slowly through space, heading toward the edge of the solar system. "Last group is away, Captain," said her officer. "All human civilians are now off Luna base." Sujin nodded. She had been planning this day for 10 years. Every human colony, every space station, every research outpost was now empty. Millions of humans had quietly packed up and left over the past months. They told the aliens they were just moving people around for efficiency reasons. The aliens did not care enough to ask questions. "Good work, Lieutenant Bin-Ho," Sujin said. "Start the final shutdown sequence." Down in the engine rooms, Engineer Dong-hyun was doing the most important job of all. He was making sure the aliens could never use human technology after humans were gone. Every computer, every machine, every system that humans had built was being shut down or broken. "Remove the quantum drives from all the ships," Dong-hyun told his team. "Take out the gravity generators too. Leave the shells, but take everything that makes them work." His team moved quickly. They had practiced this many times. Every piece of advanced human technology was being taken away or destroyed. The aliens had always used human-made things, but they never learned how to build them. They thought human technology was simple and basic. They would learn how wrong they were. The aliens never noticed that humans were the only species who could fix things when they broke. They never saw that human engineers were called to solve problems on alien ships and stations every day. They just thought it was normal. In a secret base far beyond the edge of the galaxy, Dr. Yoon-hee sat in front of the largest computer humanity had ever built. This computer was connected to every human device in Council space. With one command, she could turn off everything humans had ever made for the aliens. "All evacuation ships report they are clear of Council space," her assistant told her. Dr. Yoon-hee put her hand on the big red button. She had helped design this plan from the beginning. For 50 years, humans had been preparing for this day. Every machine they built for the aliens had a secret switch. Every system had a way to turn it off from far away. "Execute Protocol 7, she said. She pressed the button. Across the galaxy, every human-built machine stopped working. Space stations went dark, ships lost power, factories shut down. Computer systems displayed the same message. "Thank you for the experience. We go now to find our own path among the stars." Back on Luna base, Captain Sujin watched the last lights turn off. The base that had been humanity's home for 300 years was now empty and cold. She picked up her bag and walked to her own small ship. "Luna base to Earth control," she said into her radio. "The moon is secure. All human presence removed. Beginning final departure." On Earth, the automated systems had already started. Every radio and TV station was broadcasting the same message. Every computer screen showed the same words, but there were no humans left to see it. Earth was empty too. The message was simple. "Thank you for the experience. We go now to find our own path among the stars." Sujin's ship left Luna base and flew toward the edge of the solar system. Behind her, Earth and its moon grew smaller and smaller. She felt sad, but also excited. Humanity was finally free to explore. The universe without aliens telling them they were not important. In the council chamber, Hyunwoo's empty seat was already forgotten. The other aliens continued their meeting. They talked about trade deals and border disputes. They did not know that the species they called adequate had just vanished from their galaxy. The Zephyrian delegate was complaining about shipping delays. The crystal aliens were arguing about mining rights. The gas blob speaker was trying to keep order. None of them realized that half the galaxy's infrastructure had just stopped working. It would be weeks before they understood what had really happened. By then, every human ship would be far away in the dark space between galaxies. Humanity was going to find new worlds and new adventures without the aliens who never appreciated them. The last human ship disappeared into the cosmic dark. Behind them, they left empty cities, silent factories, and a galaxy that was about to learn how much they had depended on the species they never bothered to respect. 3 months passed after the humans disappeared. At first, nobody in the Galactic Council noticed anything wrong. The aliens went about their daily business. They held meetings, made trade deals, and argued about borders. Life seemed normal, but small problems started happening. Captain Malteth of the Zephyrian Trade Fleet was the first to notice something strange. His ship had stopped at Waypoint Station 47 for fuel and repairs. It was a routine stop he had made hundreds of times before, but when his ship arrived, the station was completely dark. Station 47, this is trade vessel Greywing requesting docking. Permission, Malteth called into his radio. No answer came back. The station floated in space like a dead rock. Its lights were off. Its docking bays were closed. Malteth had never seen the station like this before. "That's weird," said his co-pilot. "Station 47 never closes. The humans who run it keep it open all day and night." Malteth checked his computer. According to his records, Station 47 was managed by humans. He had never thought about it before. Humans just seemed to be everywhere, running the small but important jobs that kept things working. His fuel tank was almost empty. Without Station 47, he would have to fly 3 more days to reach the next fuel stop. His cargo of fresh food would spoil before he could deliver it. "Try the other stations on our route," Malteth told his co-pilot. They called ahead to 5 more stations. All of them were dark and silent. All of them had been run by humans. Malteth was not the only one having problems. Across the galaxy, trade routes that had worked perfectly for decades suddenly stopped functioning. Ships found empty fuel stations, closed repair shops, and silent communication relays. The Nexarian Empire controlled the largest trade network in the galaxy. Their ships carried goods between thousands of worlds. For 200 years, the system had worked like a perfect machine. Cargo always arrived on time. Ships always found fuel when they needed it. Problems were solved quickly and quietly. Admiral Kesnova of the Nexarian fleet stared at the disaster reports on her desk. In just 3 months, 30% of their trade routes had failed. Ships were getting lost. Cargo was arriving late or not at all. Some vessels had run out of fuel in deep space and had to be rescued. "What changed?" Kesnova asked her staff. "Our system worked perfectly for 2 centuries. Why is it breaking now?" Her chief officer, a tall blue alien with 4 arms, looked uncomfortable. "Admiral, we checked the records. Most of our logistics planning was done by human consultants. They designed our shipping schedules, our fuel station network, and our emergency response systems. Where are these human consultants now?" Kesnova demanded. "Gone, Admiral, all of them. They left 3 months ago without training replacements." Kesnova felt her stomach drop. She had never paid attention to the humans who worked for her. Empire. They were just background staff who did routine work. She never realized they were the ones who made everything run smoothly. On the other side of the galaxy, Ambassador Tae Min of the Hegemony faced a different crisis. 2 of their member species were about to start a war over a border dispute. This kind of problem happened all the time. Usually, it was solved quickly with a few meetings and compromise agreements, but this time was different. "We demand the return of our mining colony on Theta 7, growled the ambassador from the Spiral Coalition. He was a large, hairy creature with sharp teeth. "Your people took it illegally." "Theta 7 belongs to the hegemony," Taman replied calmly. "We have contracts proving our claim." The Coalition ambassador slammed his fist on the table. "Your contracts are lies. We will take our colony back by force if necessary." In the past, this kind of argument would have been handled by human mediators. Humans had a special talent for finding solutions that made both sides happy. They could take complex legal problems and explain them in simple terms. They could calm angry aliens and help them see each other's point of view. But there were no human mediators left. Taman tried to solve the problem himself. He offered to split the colony between both species. The Coalition rejected his offer. He suggested a neutral arbitrator. Both sides refused. Every idea he proposed made the situation worse. Within a week, both sides had moved warships to the Theta 7 system. What should have been a simple legal discussion was about to become a shooting war. The problem spread to other areas of galactic life. On Vega Prime, the agricultural domes that fed billions of people started to fail. The alien engineers who worked there had always depended on human agricultural experts to keep the crops growing. Engineer Vok Thane looked at the dying plants in Dome 7. The corn that should have been green and healthy was turning yellow and brown. The wheat was falling over before it was ready to harvest. The rice paddies were producing half their normal crop. "What's wrong with them?" Vok Thane asked his team. "We don't know," replied his assistant. "We followed all the standard procedures. We gave them water, nutrients, and light, exactly like always. But the standard procedures had been written by humans. The aliens had followed the written instructions, but they never understood why the instructions worked. Humans had secrets for growing food that they never wrote down. They knew when to add extra nutrients, how to adjust the light cycles, and which plants needed special care. The human agricultural experts had tried to teach these secrets to their alien co-workers, but the aliens thought human farming methods were too simple and unscientific. They preferred to follow computer programs and automated systems. Now, without human knowledge, the crops were dying. Vega Prime, which fed 12 star systems, was facing its first food shortage in 300 years. Captain Wayman of the Council Fleet discovered an even more serious problem. 60% of all military ships in the galaxy used human-designed modifications. These improvements made the ships faster, stronger, and more efficient. But the modifications required special maintenance that only humans knew how to do. Wayman's flagship, the Starburner, had been upgraded with human technology 5 years ago. The upgrades doubled the ship's speed and made its weapons more accurate. It was the most advanced ship in the fleet, but now the upgrades were breaking down. The faster engines were overheating. The weapon systems were losing accuracy. The navigation. Computer was giving wrong directions. "Can we fix it?" Wayman asked his chief engineer. The engineer, a robotic being made of metal and circuits, shook his mechanical head. "The human modifications use principles we don't understand. Their engineering philosophy is completely different from ours. They build things to work together in ways that seem impossible." Wayman looked at the reports from other ships. The same problems were happening everywhere. Ships that had been improved by humans were slowly falling apart. The alien engineers could keep the basic systems working, but they could not maintain the human improvements. The Galactic Council finally held an emergency meeting. For the first time in months, the council chamber was completely full. Every species sent their most important representatives. The air was filled with worried voices speaking in dozens of different languages. The green gas blob speaker floated in the center of the room. "We are here to discuss the recent problems affecting galactic civilization. Trade routes are failing, food production is dropping, military systems are breaking down. We need to find solutions." A Zephyrian delegate stood up. "These problems all started 3 months ago. That's when the humans left. We need to examine the connection." "Humans are just farmers and clerks," said a crystal alien. "They can't be responsible for major galactic systems." But as the reports came in from across the galaxy, the truth became clear. Humans had been involved in almost every important system, in galactic civilization. They had designed trade routes, managed food production, maintained military equipment, and solved diplomatic problems. The aliens had never noticed because humans worked quietly in the background. They didn't demand credit or recognition. They just did their jobs and made everything work better. Now they were gone, and the galaxy was starting to fall apart. The council speaker read humanity's final message for the first time. "Thank you for the experience. We go now to find our own path among the stars." For the first time, the aliens realized this wasn't just a goodbye note. It was a warning of everything they were about to lose. 6 months after humanity left, the galaxy was in chaos. What had started as small problems had grown into disasters that threatened every world and every species. The Galactic Council met in emergency session almost every day, but they could not solve the growing crisis. The first major system to completely fail was communication. For 300 years, every species in the galaxy had been able to talk to each other using the Universal Translation Protocol. When a Zephyrian spoke, aliens from any other species could understand them perfectly. The system worked so well that most aliens forgot it existed. But the translation protocol was breaking down. Ambassador Feltarn of the Crystal Hegemony was trying to speak with Admiral Mosstrek of the Spiral Coalition about their border war. What should have been a simple conversation turned into confusion and anger. "We propose to withdraw from sectors 7 through 12 in exchange for mining rights in the asteroid belt," Feltarn said in his crystal language. The translation system struggled to convert his words. Admiral Mosstrek heard something very different. "We demand surrender of sectors 7 through 12 and complete control of asteroid mining." "Never!" Mosstrek roared. "We will fight before we surrender anything." Feltarn was confused. He had offered to give up territory, not demand it. But when he tried to explain, the translation got even worse. Soon, both aliens were shouting at each other in languages the other could not understand. This scene repeated across the galaxy. Diplomatic meetings turned into fights because species could no longer communicate clearly. Trade negotiations failed because aliens could not understand what they were buying or selling. Military alliances collapsed when commanders could not coordinate their fleets. The translation protocol had been designed by Dr. Hayun, a human linguist who understood how different alien minds worked. She had spent 50 years studying every species in the galaxy. Her system did not just translate words, it translated ideas and emotions so that aliens could truly understand each other. But Hayun was gone, and her system was failing without maintenance. The aliens had never learned how it worked. They thought translation was just about changing words from one language to another. They did not understand that Hayun had created something much more complex and beautiful. Military disasters followed, communication failures. Admiral Young-soo had been the chief strategic advisor for the Council Defense Force. He was a quiet human who rarely spoke in meetings, but his battle plans had kept peace in the galaxy for decades. The Council fleets were now fighting pirates and raiders using their old tactics. These tactics were rigid and predictable. Every alien military followed the same basic rules: attack from the front, use overwhelming force, and fight until one side surrendered. Admiral Young-soo had taught them something different. He showed them how to be flexible, how to surprise enemies, and how to win fights without destroying everything. His strategies saved lives and ended conflicts quickly. But Young-soo was gone, and the alien commanders had forgotten his lessons. They went back to their old ways of fighting. The results were terrible. Captain Nex Voth of the Border Patrol lost half his fleet to a small group of pirates. The pirates used simple tricks that Young-soo would have easily defeated. They hid behind asteroids, attacked when the Council ships were not ready, and escaped before reinforcements could arrive. "How did 12 pirate ships destroy 30 of our vessels?" demanded the Council war chief. Captain Nex Voth had no answer. The pirates had done nothing special. They just used basic tactics that the Council forces should have been able to handle. But without human strategic thinking, the alien commanders were helpless against even simple enemies. The economic crisis was even worse. The galactic economy was collapsing as trade systems failed and production dropped. Markets that had been stable for centuries now changed wildly from day to day. Economist Hae Jin had been humanity's representative on the Galactic Trade Commission. She was a small, quiet woman who rarely made speeches or demanded attention. But her economic models had prevented 3 major economic crashes and guided the galaxy's prosperity for 30 years. Hae Jin understood something that alien economists did not: the importance of confidence and psychology in economic systems. Aliens thought economics was just about numbers and resources. They believed that if you had enough materials and workers, prosperity would automatically follow. But Hae Jin knew that economics was also about trust, hope, and belief. When people felt confident about the future, they invested in new businesses and bought more goods. When they felt scared, they saved their money and stopped spending. The economy grew or shrank based on how people felt as much as what they owned. Alien economists had computers that could calculate supply and demand perfectly, but they could not predict how news or events would change the way people thought and felt. They could not understand why some businesses succeeded while others failed, even when they had the same resources. Without Hae Jin's guidance, the markets became wild and unpredictable. One day, food prices would double because rumors spread about crop failures. The next day, they would drop by half when the rumors were proven false. Businesses could not plan for the future when prices changed so randomly. The scientific community faced its own crisis. Research across the galaxy had slowed to almost nothing. New discoveries that had once happened every month now took years to achieve. The aliens blamed budget cuts and political problems. But the real issue was deeper than money or politics. They had lost something much more important: curiosity. Dr. Ji-hoon had been humanity's chief scientific advisor. His research laboratory on Terra Station had been the center of galactic scientific progress for 20 years. But Ji-hoon's most important contribution was not any single discovery. It was his way of thinking about science. Most alien scientists were specialists. They studied one small area of knowledge and became experts in that field. A Zephyrian physicist would spend his entire life studying quantum mechanics. A crystal chemist would focus only on molecular structures. A spiral biologist would research only one type of organism. This specialization made them very good at solving problems in their narrow fields, but it also made them blind to connections between different areas of science. They could not see how biology related to physics or how chemistry connected to engineering. Ji-hoon was different. He was curious about everything. He would spend a morning studying star formation, an afternoon learning about plant genetics, and an evening working on computer programming. His laboratory brought together specialists from dozens of fields and helped them share ideas. This approach led to amazing breakthroughs. When biologists worked with physicists, they discovered new ways to heal injuries using quantum effects. When chemists talked to engineers, they invented materials stronger than anything previously imagined. When computer scientists met psychologists, they created artificial intelligence systems that could understand emotions. But Ji-hoon was gone, and his laboratory was empty. The alien scientists went back to working alone in their separate fields. Progress slowed to a crawl as brilliant minds stopped talking to each other. Infrastructure across the galaxy was also failing. Power systems, transportation networks, and life support systems that had worked perfectly for decades started having serious problems. Engineer Kyung-soo had designed most of the galaxy's critical infrastructure. His philosophy was simple: build things that could survive mistakes and failures. When one part broke, other parts would take over its job. When problems happened, they would be small and fixable, instead of large and catastrophic. This approach was different from traditional alien engineering. Most species built systems that were efficient and powerful, but fragile. If one part failed, the entire system would stop working. Alien engineers believed this was acceptable because their systems rarely broke. But Kyung-soo knew that everything breaks eventually. He designed systems with backup plans for their backup plans. He built redundancy into every critical component. His infrastructure could handle earthquakes, power failures, computer viruses, and human mistakes without stopping essential services. The aliens thought Kyung-soo's approach was wasteful and overly complicated. They did not understand why he used 3 power generators when one would be enough, or why he built multiple paths for water and air when a single pipe would work fine. Now they understood. Without redundant systems, every small problem became a major disaster. When a power generator failed on Kepler Prime, the entire city lost electricity for 3 days. When a water pipe burst on Vega Station, half the colony nearly died of dehydration. When a computer virus infected the air recycling system on Crystal Base, thousands of aliens had to be evacuated. The Galactic Council held another emergency meeting. The chamber was fuller than ever before, but the mood was desperate rather than confident. Every species was facing multiple crises: food shortages, communication failures, economic collapse, and infrastructure breakdowns were happening everywhere. "We need solutions," announced the speaker blob. "Our civilization is falling apart." A Zephyrian delegate stood up. "All of these problems started when the humans left. They are connected somehow. How can humans be responsible for all of this?" The largest search fleet in galactic history assembled at the edge of Council space. 5,000 ships from every major species worked together for the first time in centuries. Their mission was simple but desperate: find humanity and bring them back before galactic civilization collapsed completely. Captain Boram commanded the search fleet from her flagship, the Starseeker. She was a Nexarian officer who had worked closely with human advisors for 20 years. Unlike most aliens, She had always respected human intelligence and creativity. Now she was leading the desperate hunt for the species that everyone else had ignored. Begin wide-spectrum scans of all known human colonies, Boram ordered her mixed crew of alien specialists. Look for any signs of recent activity. The first stop was Earth's solar system. The search ships found empty planets and silent space stations. Earth itself looked exactly like it had 300 years ago, before humans had joined galactic civilization. The cities were gone. The spaceports were empty. Even the orbital platforms had been carefully dismantled and removed. It's like they were never here, reported Commander Vel Nash, Boram's second-in-command. No damage, no destruction. Everything just cleaned up and taken away. Boram studied the scans of Earth's surface. Forests and grasslands covered areas where human cities had once stood. Lakes and rivers flowed through places where factories and spaceports had operated for centuries. Humanity had not just left. They had restored their homeworld to its natural state. Check for any records or messages they might have left behind, Boram said. The search teams found nothing useful. Every human computer had been wiped clean. Every database had been emptied. Every communication system had been shut down. If humanity had left clues about their destination, those clues were well hidden. The fleet moved on to other systems. Alpha Centauri, where humans had built their first interstellar colony, was completely empty. The mining stations around Proxima Centauri had been stripped of all equipment. The agricultural domes on Kepler 442b were dark and silent. Each empty system revealed the same pattern. Humans had not just abandoned their settlements. They had carefully removed every trace of their advanced technology. Buildings were left standing, but all the computers, machines, and vehicles were gone. It was as if humans had deliberately made sure that no other species could benefit from their departure. Dr. Kolvex, the fleet's chief archaeologist, was amazed by what he found. "This level of planning and organization is incredible," he told Boram. "They must have been working on this evacuation for decades. Every site shows evidence of careful, methodical removal of all advanced technology." Why would they take everything with them? Boram wondered. Perhaps they didn't want us to learn their secrets, suggested Commander Vel Nash. They knew we never tried to understand their technology. They probably realized we would just break everything if they left it behind. The search expanded beyond known human territory. Long-range scouts explored systems that had never appeared on galactic maps. They followed ancient trade routes and investigated gravitational anomalies that might hide secret bases. What they found shocked even Boram. Human presence in the galaxy had been far larger than anyone realized. Hidden colonies existed in systems the Council had never explored. Massive engineering projects were discovered in forgotten nebulae. Automated mining operations worked in asteroid belts that official records said were empty. "Look at this," Dr. Kolvex called Boram to his analysis station. "We found 17 hidden human settlements that never appeared in any Council databases. Some of them are huge, big enough for millions of people." Boram studied the data. The hidden settlements were connected by a network of secret hyperspace, routes that bypassed all Council monitoring stations. Humans had built their own transportation system that operated completely independently of galactic infrastructure. They could travel anywhere in the galaxy without us knowing about it, Boram realized. We thought we knew where all the humans lived, but we only saw a small part of their civilization. Even more surprising were the signs of contact with unknown species. Several abandoned human outposts contained artifacts and technology that did not match any known galactic civilization. The materials were made from elements that did not exist in Council space. The designs followed principles that alien scientists could not understand. These artifacts suggest that humans had contact with species beyond our galaxy, Dr. Kolvex reported. They may have been exploring far beyond the galactic rim while we thought they were just farming and keeping records. As the search continued, the fleet made another disturbing discovery. Evidence suggested that humanity had been preparing to leave for over 50 years. Every major human contribution to galactic society had been designed with secret transition protocols. Dr. Minho's abandoned research laboratory on Titan Station contained thousands of files that told the real story. His notes revealed that humans had been gradually reducing galactic dependence on human systems for decades. Every machine they built for aliens included training programs that the aliens had ignored. Every system came with detailed instruction, manuals that alien engineers had never bothered to read. They tried to teach us, Bo-Ram said as she read Minho's final report. For 50 years, they tried to show us how their technology worked. They wanted us to become independent so they could leave without causing a crisis. But we never listened. Commander Vel Nash added bitterly. We were too proud to learn from species we considered inferior. The search teams found similar evidence everywhere they looked. Human agricultural experts had written detailed guides to their farming techniques, but alien farmers had ignored them. Human engineers had offered to train alien technicians, but the aliens had refused. Human diplomats had tried to teach conflict resolution skills, but other species had dismissed their methods as too simple. At every step, humans had tried to prepare the galaxy for their eventual departure. They had offered to share their knowledge, to train replacements, and to gradually transfer responsibility to other species. But the aliens had been too arrogant to accept help from the species they saw as servants. Dr. So Young, the fleet's chief historian, discovered the most painful evidence of all. Council records showed that humans had been systematically excluded from leadership positions for centuries. Despite their obvious skills and contributions, they had never been allowed to hold important jobs or make major decisions. Human scientists made breakthrough discoveries, but alien department heads got the credit, So Young reported. Human engineers solved critical problems, but alien supervisors claimed the achievements. Human diplomats prevented wars, but alien ambassadors received the recognition. The records revealed a pattern of casual discrimination that had lasted for hundreds of years. Humans were always described as adequate or useful for basic tasks. Their ideas were dismissed as too simple or unscientific. Their warnings about potential problems were ignored until those problems became crises. We treated them like servants, Bo-Ram said sadly. They were the most capable species in the galaxy, and we made them feel like they didn't matter. The search fleet followed every lead, but every trail went cold at the galactic rim. Long-range sensors detected signs of massive human fleet movements heading into the void between galaxies. But beyond that point, there was no trace of where humanity had gone. Captain Bo-Ram stood on the observation deck of her ship, staring out at the cosmic darkness beyond the galaxy's edge. Somewhere in that endless void, millions of humans were building a new civilization. They had taken their knowledge, their technology, and their dreams to places where they would never again be taken for granted. We found them too late, Commander Vel Nash said quietly. Even if we could follow them into dark space, why would they come back? We spent centuries proving that we didn't value them. Bo-Ram nodded. The search had revealed the true scope of humanity's contributions to galactic civilization, but it had also shown how badly they had been treated. Humans had every reason to stay away from the species that had dismissed them for so long. Maybe that's the point, Boram said. Maybe we were never supposed to find them. Maybe we were supposed to learn to survive without them. The search fleet began its long journey home, carrying the bitter knowledge of what the galaxy had lost. Behind them, the cosmic darkness held secrets that they would never discover. Humanity was out there somewhere, free at last to become whatever they chose to be, and the galaxy they left behind would have to learn to live with the consequences of taking their most valuable species for granted.